guys, thanks for joining us once again. It's your boy John. With no club football this week, we go straight into the Champions League. International break has been that exciting. And of course, we thank you guys for your support all the time. I couldn't get Denzel on due to some logistical reasons. So I brought the B team this week. So with me, I have joining my friends. Chad, how are you going?
I'm good. Nice to be here.
Alright, so we go into it, we'll start with one of the smaller ties of the quarterfinals. Liverpool drew against Porto, and we look back at both teams and their round of 16 outings. We start off with Porto. Porto lost the first leg 2-1 to Roma, but showed great fight to come back at their home stadium to win the tie. A little VAR had a little play in it, giving them a penalty in extra time, but this was a game that a lot of people thought Roma should have won, given that they made it to the semi-finals last year.
I mean, yeah, but you have to look at they lost their star keeper.
Right.
To Liverpool.
Yeah. And
who they drew against, so,
Yeah, it's true. And when you look at it, Roma did a lot of ins and outs in the summer, and there was a lot of chopping and changing happening at the club, because it wasn't just him. They lost also Nainggolan to Inter Milan. And, they hired Monchi, who was supposed to be the transfer guru, to help them with the transfers of in and out of the club. And they thought after signing a keeper like Olsen, who was Sweden starting keeper at the World Cup, that they thought that they might have found another gem, another diamond in the rough. And it didn't really turn out that way. And when you look at Roma's domestic form, where they aren't even in the top four, I guess you could say that this result isn't that much of a surprise.
Yeah, like with all great teams, like Real Madrid especially too. This year, not so lucky.
Yeah.
To, keep the same players, the same manager.
And when we look at a lot of the ties, which we will get into, a lot of them were won by one team in the first leg and were overturned in the second leg, We saw, I believe it was 6 ties where one team won the first leg and the other team managed to overturn the deficit in the following leg. And Roma won one of those teams who won the receiving end of it. Porto, like we said, drew Liverpool. Liverpool were 0-0 at Anfield, and a lot of people were expecting Bayern to be able to put them to the sword at the Allianz, but that wasn't the case. Liverpool big guns showed up on the night. Their biggest gun for the season looks to be Sadio Mane, firing on all fronts this year, and Virgil van Dijk, who was missing in the first leg, came up huge in the second leg. We laud Van Dijk for all the right reasons of being a top class centre half, but we look at that pass he put for Mane, which I thought was a really good pass, and then Mane showed the composure required when Neuer rushed out to wait for him, spin him around, and then fire the ball into what would have been an empty net.
And the placement.
Yeah. And
a bunch of defenders running back.
We look at the standard that is set to be called world class, And for me, one of the key things to be called world class, Chad, is consistency, I think, like, if you want to be recognized as a world class player, you need to be performing at that level consistently, And when we look across the years, there would be Messi and Ronaldo up there, again consistent. Yeah, there'll be small fluctuations below and above what would be like their average, but their consistent average is extremely high. And we look at last year, Salah managed to hit that level, and they say he seems to be coming back down a little bit. And a player who has managed to go under the radar whilst Salah was doing his exploits is Sadio Mane. And this season in the Premier League, Sadio Mane has become the highest Senegalese scorer in a single Premier League campaign. And I think, his work for Liverpool goes underrated,
Yeah, isn't he on top the goal scoring charts in Premier League?
He's second with 17. He
didn't just score 18 last weekend?
I don't think so.
No.
I'll check it though. But continue.
I think he did. But yeah, Mane has been very, very, very good for Liverpool. While some certain players has, as John said, fallen, he stepped up. Like like a team that Liverpool are trying to compete for the title. You know, they need their players to step up when some are out of form. And that's exactly what he's been doing for the course of the season.
Yeah, we look at even in his domestic form, he's now scored in his last 8 games straight. And, you know, we speak about again consistency, and even the best players go through moments of a rough patch where they won't always be at the top of the game. And what you hope for is that while one player is enduring the drought, that another player picks up the slack. And whilst Mane was going through a little bit of a scoring roughness earlier in the season, and Salah was scoring, we see now where Salah is going through his rough patch and Mane has hit like a burning fire of form. And we look in this game, and again Van Dijk return, and you would think, okay, that's a really big contribution to the defense. But we look at, again, he got a goal and an assist in this tie, and how vital he is to both ends of the pitch, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you are stable at the back, it gives you a good platform to attack. And that's just one sense. But the fact that, you know, he shows that he is a very big game player. Another instance, ironically, in the international football, is during the Nations League last year, he scored in like the 88th minute against Germany to make them winners of their group. So to give them another avenue for them to qualify to the Euros in 2020. And I guess these are just examples of how big of a player he is. So just really quickly, I want to ask you, where do you think he ranks now amongst the world centre backs?
Probably number one.
Probably number one. I would tend to agree, especially given on when you compare current form of some of the top centre halves we see these days. You know, we got Rafael Varane, we look at Diego Godin, look at Chiellini, all of which we'll come to as we discuss their teams. I think he has been definitely one of the most consistent performers domestically and in Europe for his team this year. So we look at this tie, Liverpool versus Porto. You would expect Liverpool to get this done. For those who don't know, Liverpool actually faced Porto last year in the Champions League.
5-0 victory.
And it was pretty bad for Porto, losing 5-0 on aggregate, but it was 5-0 in the first half alone in Portugal, and Porto will be hoping to at least have a better showing of themselves even if they don't make it out this tie.
Yeah, they'll most definitely put up a bigger fight than they did last year.
And I think, you know, when we compare Liverpool last year, Liverpool were going into their ties in better form than they were this year.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that it's impossible for Porto to cause an upset, but they would need a definite upsurge in form. Some player that you might not be aware of that I think is a very, very key player for them going into the season is one of the brightest youth prospects in the world. I want to just make sure I pull up his proper name here, because I actually might have butchered his name before. Is Eder Militao, recently signed for Real Madrid. He has played sometimes at right back, but at centre half he has shown to be one very, very, very great talent, which is why Real Madrid has already stopped him up and could be a really key player in this tie as he tries to, especially if he's playing on the right back, is to tackle Sadio Mane. His job will be to handle Sadio Mane. And we saw where Bayern were missing Joshua Kimmich. You know, we saw how well Sadio Mane took advantage of that. So that'll be a real key duel to keep an eye on. We go on to the other tie. We're splitting these up 2 by 2. The next tie that we have on the agenda would be the All English tie. For those who don't know, this would be the first time since 08-09 that there are 4 English teams in the quarterfinals. So our All English tie was almost inevitable. Tottenham Hotspur take on Manchester City. I will raise my hand and admit that I was one who thought that Dortmund should have gotten past Spurs.
Not collect 4.
It's true. But I think when we look at the job that Pochettino has done, and to take advantage of the players that Dortmund were missing, even though he was missing some himself, there was a really good job by the Argentine to rotate the squad, pull out a few tactical surprises on the Germans, and to come out on top. We will get to it later on, but 3 English teams face 3 German teams, and all of which are out at this point in time. And there is by no means we are implying that this is like the coming of English teams back to the forefront, but it's a really good step going forward, because like 2 or 3 years ago, I don't remember, like there were questions on should England really have a 4th spot, that kind of thing. And we look not just in the Champions League, even in Europa League, the 2 English teams that enter the tournament are still in the tournament, you know.
It is the first time in this century that all 6 English teams are still in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I think that's like a really good sign of where England is coming now. And on a very small note, I actually think part of that is due to the fantastic coaches in England at this point in time, you know. We look at the high caliber of coaches, you know. We're talking about coaches that have coached all across Europe before. We look at Pep Guardiola, we look at Jurgen Klopp. Pochettino has only really made his name in England, but he's coached in Spain before. We look at Unai Emery, we look at Ole Gunnar, who's making his name right now. And we look at Sarri, who's known in Italy, right? And I think we are seeing where English teams are a little bit more mature in Europe, you know. We see where teams are much more ready to dig in rather than feel like just because they are English, they could just go and attack every team. But I mean, all English tie feels like another Premier League tie. For Man City, this tie will come at a really peculiar time, because around that time they are also playing Spurs in the league. So this tie could go either way. But just to look back once more at Dortmund versus Spurs, I think part of the reason that Dortmund will let down is that Dortmund back 4 is very, very young. And I think the inexperience might have played a little bit into it. We look at Hakimi, a very young player, Diallo, another very young player. We look at Guerrero, another young player. We look at Zagadou, another young player. And Dortmund have built their title chart even this season on a youthful exuberance. And we are now seeing where that is to some extent falling apart, where they were miles ahead of Bayern in the title race, and they have allowed them back into it. And we now know, you know, you need that experience there. And Spurs definitely have veterans there. And I always talk about mentality, because you need a certain mentality to get past hurdles. And this was a big hurdle for Spurs. Not making the quarterfinals in so much years, having time and time again, falling at semi-finals, falling at round of 16. It was a very big mental step for them to get past the Germans.
Especially being in not so good form in the league, especially.
Yeah.
Against the Dortmund team, who were playing really well.
Yeah.
And to go in Germany and win, that was pretty good.
Yeah, and we look at, you know, one of the brightest English talents right now, Jadon Sancho, playing for them, and he couldn't even make a note in that game. Especially after we look at in the group stage, he played against Atletico Madrid. And they ripped them apart, and we all know Atletico Madrid are one of the more better defensive sides in Europe. So this was a really good showing from Tottenham Hotspur. We look at the opponents, Manchester City. One word to describe the tie with Schalke was embarrassing.
Not so much the first leg too, because they were winning Schalke 2-1.
Yeah.
Otamendi, red card.
Yeah.
And they still came back and won the game 3-2.
And then in
they
the
went
second
to
leg,
Etihad and 7-1? Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty bad, man.
Very bad.
And we look at the plan, it's like, we look at the players that are coming to the fore now, and Man City, as opposed to what we said about Liverpool earlier, are now hitting form at the right time. You know, Man City in all competition still, the quadruple dream is still very much on for Pep Guardiola and his men, and you know, they are rightfully overwhelming favourites to go into this game.
Overall favourites for the Champions League.
Yeah, but you can't, again, we have seen this Champions League has definitely been defined by not counting anybody out. So you can't count Spurs out just yet.
Yeah, and Man City will have memories of this time last season.
Yeah, where all English
side against Liverpool and
Very much so.
They were kicked out.
And you figure, you know, they were kicked out by another manager who likes to play a lot of pressing football. And this is very much the same where Pochettino has shown that he can play that kind of football to press and resist against a very possession-based side. But even with the little missing injuries, we were unsure yet if Fernandinho will be back for that game. You would still think that across the two ties that Man City has enough to go through. One of my personal nominees for Player of the Year in England is Raheem Sterling. And his form has transcended between competitions, you know, and has even gone on the international stage where we are speaking after a weekend where he just scored a hat-trick for England, you know. I think his overall game, I mean, when people hear me now, they would swear that this is the Raheem Sterling show. But I just think that the level that he's carried it to is phenomenal, you know. And people say that he scores tap-ins, but he doesn't only score tap-ins.
Because the kind of runs he needs to make for that tap.
It's incredible. And his change of pace to get past defenders is ridiculous. And his ability to time his runs to get behind the defender just enough so that he isn't offside. Bear in mind he's got an offside goal against Watford a couple of weeks ago. But his finishing has improved, his position has improved, his dribbling has definitely improved where defenders don't want to touch him because he is so quick to get around them that you will give away a penalty, you know. And he's been so good. 24 goals and assists in 30 games is the same amount as Eden Hazard, and we class Eden Hazard as a world-class player. Whether that's rightful or wrongful, you definitely need to put Sterling up there at this point in time.
Yeah.
So I do think that Man City are favourites to go through, and rightfully so. And you can't count on Spurs yet, but you have to think that across the two legs, Man City and Pep will get this done.
Two legs, yeah.
So just really quickly, I just want to ask you, even though I'm a United fan, right? Where do you think Spurs would finish this season then? Given that we are kind of counting them out to leave at this stage, which is still, I think, like going into the season, their expectations would have been to make at least the quarterfinals in Champions League, which they have done. But again, another season with no silverware. Do you think they will still make it up for?
Yes, like they right now they were very close to the top two.
Yeah.
And they lost 3 games.
Yeah.
And
they have 3 losses in 4 games and 1 draw.
And now Arsenal is 1 point behind.
Yeah.
United 3 points behind.
Yeah.
And Chelsea is
somewhere
right there. Yeah, so you know you could never really say because Arsenal has a very good a favourable turn of games coming down in the league. The best out of the remaining teams fighting for the top 4, so you never know.
Alright guys, so we're gonna take a quick break now. This will be the end of episode 1 and we'll get back to the other two ties in part 2 of the same episode. So catch you guys.
Oh na 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 yeah. Ay 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 ay. Ay 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 ay. Fill my cup all over me, like a river over me. Once I use them, it can't go wrong. Oh na 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 yes. I just can't get over you. Every single thing you do, yeah, shows that I'm on your mind. Now I feel some type of way, yeah. When I stop and check out how much you guide my days, yes. So me now go down, if I know you, go down, right now I'm feeling another song again. It's your favor over me. Got me feeling away. Guide me another day. It's your loving over me. Got me feeling away. Stay over me. It's your favor over the stay over the right now I could just fly. I feel I could fly. Running around for my 19 mile, searching for the answer, but you're my problem solver. Solve all the problems I got here. So we smile inside the storms. You never keep the calm. You make me a winner. your favor over the stay over the right now I could just fly I feel like I fly everywhere I go, everywhere I turn, everywhere I go, everywhere I turn, your favor surrounds me, it surrounds me, it's your favor over me.